All right, welcome again to Tibalt's Apprentice.
Yes.
I am lucky enough to be joined by Enrique yet again.
Always a pleasure.
All right, so a few loose topics to talk about this week, and let's just get right into them.
All right.
What's it take for you to have a winning day at Magic?
Ooh, winning day at Magic.
Yeah.
Let's see. Preferably having someone cry at the end. Let's see. Maybe.
If it all ends in tears, you've done your job.
No, if it's a perfect day, I'll have like some kind of container to collect those tears.
Nice.
Then that'd be the great, winningest day of all time.
Now you see why this is one of the favorite guests here on Tibalt's Apprentice. So you like to collect the tears of the enemy and salt the earth with those. That's nice.
No, just drink them.
Don't just drink.
the sweet saltiness.
Short of that, what does it take to have a good day? A good day of playing
Okay,
Magic?
so beneath a solid day of Magic.
That's the pinnacle. That's a zenith. Slightly below that, what would you say?
Just being able to do the things.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, even if I lose ultimately,
right,
which I do a lot of.
It happens.
It happens a lot. If I can pull off some of the things,
okay,
then that goes a long way for me. If I'm able to pull off all of the things, then that's like super awesome. And
say
I won, but
it was maybe like your birthday and you spanked everybody else instead. Like
that may or may not have happened. Yes.
That was something else that putting you on the spot here and stuff. I don't know if you're ready to talk about that deck, but I would like to talk to you at some point about that deck. It's one that you had teased on here, talked about. You had said you were working on something very specific. I would say, seeing it in action for the very first time, you've been working very hard on that. Or maybe the synergies just came together. I don't know.
For that particular game, everything just lined up.
It did.
It was kind of disgusting.
Absolutely. So winning doesn't always mean winning the game. It means as long as you're having fun.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I agree. We've talked about it a few times on here before, is the idea that we don't have to be winning to, you know what? I'm going to be doing some fancy editing here. Hold on one second. Have a good time at Magic is the most important thing. But you also, I think, need to build towards that. So it doesn't, and I don't mean just the deck. You need to build towards having a good game by making sure that the people you're playing with are on the same page. And making sure that you sync up your power levels, or discuss that ahead of time, I think, as you're playing. Moving on to the next topic, do your decks evolve, or do you build new decks?
A bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I get deck ideas all the time.
Sure.
And so it's just an issue of whether I build that deck or not. As far as my made decks go, I mean, just from, the wonderful Commander products that are out there.
Right.
Like, they evolve from just the fresh out of the pack kind of build.
Sure.
I totally tune those decks. From the decks that I've built myself, I'll evolve them. I'll look at new cards that are coming out. Oh, what would fit in this deck? And just play around with different ideas. And some cards are just straight upgrades, to other cards. Right.
The thing that I'm thinking about specifically, then, in my case, and what got me thinking on this topic, is when we talked about the I love, or rather I hate to win.
Oh yeah.
Which becomes true. I love to win with this deck. The name of the deck, I hate to win. It absolutely applies. But then I started making a few changes to it. You and I talked. We had our little sidebar last time, and they gave me some good ideas, and I made some tweaks and stuff. I went even further with that, collecting ideas from other people and just from play. No better experience than play. But then it became, how much do you tweak that deck before it becomes a different deck? Is the deck evolving, or is it becoming something different?
I mean, yeah, as you progress, and especially if the intent is to rack up wins,
Right.
you're going to have a leap in evolution, right?
Right.
Like, you'll have, you'll start off with a gimmick, right?
Right.
Or how you intend on winning.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes that gimmick just isn't good enough. Like, take for example, I have a deck that I now call dinosaur jank deck.
Okay.
So it's Jankosaurus Rex.
Yes. Okay.
In other words, and so this deck is really janky, and so if I wanted to improve on it, yeah, like I can get better versions of cards that are currently in there.
Right.
But really, if I want to win with that deck,
Right.
it's going to have to be something completely different. Like, toss out some of these dinosaurs for like Hydroid Crasises.
Right.
Yeah, Crassi.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I would have to, make changes like that. Mm-hmm. And so it would be a completely different deck afterwards.
Right. So at that point, it would be, like you said, a completely different. You're familiar with the Grandfather Axe Paradox?
The Grandfather Axe Paradox.
Have you ever heard that before? You ever heard that term?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so basically the way the story goes is my grandfather gave my father this axe. It's a family heirloom. It's been used or whatever, but it's passed down to the next person. Father takes it. First thing he does, using it, breaks the handle. Replaces the handle. He now passes it on to me. I now have the axe. I'm using it. I chipped the head on the axe. I have to replace that. Now, is that my grandfather's axe anymore?
Yeah.
The paradox is, it came from, but same thing applies to the decks here, I think. And this came up because when I talked in another episode with Bart, we talked about the modifications that you and I discussed making to the Gideon deck. And when he said he strips, when he gets a pre-con deck, he takes it home and just strips it and does whatever and stuff. But we had to clarify, do you really strip the deck, or do you pull cards out and put cards in, which we had suggested. Just half a dozen cards to make it a more competitive deck. A few arguably budget upgrades, and you have a more playable thing. Is that a new deck now, or is it that same deck? Are you still on theme? What do you use to determine that?
Right.
So it's just something that I started thinking about, like, is a deck evolving, or is it a completely different deck? As far as that goes, I got through gold, finally, on Arena.
Sweet.
It took me 2 weeks to do it, and you have to grind and grind. It was an easy jump from there to gold. To get through gold, though, there are so many different decks. Much like when War of the Spark first came out, you had no idea what you were going to see. Throughout the entire gold level, there's such a random variety that it seems like, and I'm not saying that that Platinum and Diamond and Mythic are going to be easy, but at that point, the decks are so honed that they do one thing, and if you can't do that thing, the person usually bails out and goes on to the next thing. The other thing with the I Hate to Win deck was the fact that it's a long, slow play grinding it out. I've got to destroy their land, and a lot of times people are stubborn and just won't give up to me like they should. So
if only they knew.
If only they knew what was coming. They have no chance of playing another creature because I'm destroying all their lands. Some people don't get it. That's one of the things, though, and it brings up another idea as far as winning on, if you're winning for, because I am going to be Mythic at one point. I've got to do it. That's my goal. One of these days I'm going to get there. At least with your help, no doubt. As a matter of fact, I have a deck here for you to look at that maybe we'll do some fine tuning on.
Right on. Yeah.
But the fact is that I'm almost always, I believe, going to play red at this point because you want to get through it as fast as you can, because it is a hard grind to keep winning in this case, which is completely different from paper Magic. because I think paper Magic is as much about getting together with friends and talking and having a good time, maybe sharing an apple ale or something like that, and just maybe some pizza, what have you. Yes. Those are the best times to be had at Magic, in my opinion.
I agree.
Aside from that, though, I am very much into drinking the tears of my enemy. So, something else that I wanted to talk about then was an easy way of getting beyond 2020 vision. So, we've talked about this a little bit before, but when you begin Magic, and I for a very long time, I will say only up until recently, have start to understand. Well, every deck is inside. Let me back up. 20 lands, 20 spells, and 20 creatures.
Yes.
That was the recipe for a long time, and with most beginners for making a deck. That always kind of fit, and I would try endlessly to force that into there, and I would constantly get mana screwed. So, whose fault is that? That it's my fault. Computer research has shown you need 24 to 27. Like, I don't care. I only want 20, and I want 20 of these, and I want 20 of those. The easiest way, I think, to break out of that or get past that now is there's enough lands that duplicate or mimic or imitate spell effects. Memorial to War. That is the key. So obviously in land destruction, I can slip another land inside there. Now, you've got to be careful because you do wind up with tap lands, etc. But I guess my point is that that's an easy way to break that cycle. Look and see what land can help you achieve your goal in your deck and put those in there.
Especially if they're reusable effects on the land. Not only do you have, basically a spell on the land, but you also have a mana sink for later on too. Right. So, in regards to that one land,
the Arch of...
Arch of Vraska.
Arch of Vraska. Exactly.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as long as you have the city's blessing, boom, mana sink lets you draw a card.
Exactly, and that was a couple of the improvements that I made to that deck, was to put that in there. And I think at this point, any deck that I'm going to build is going to have that mana sink for later on in the game and stuff. So that's an easy way to move forward with that and kind of break that habit of these things have to fit in there.
Another example would be that new one that came from More of the Spark, Karn's Bastion, which, I'm totally liking. I totally bought a playset of that when it first came out. So, it's pay 4 mana, tap, and you proliferate.
Yeah. I'm seeing that more and more. It's starting to catch on. I hadn't seen that. But at this point, there are so many cards that put counters. There's so many things. There's so many planeswalkers. Planeswalkers have no other way of getting counters on them. Proliferate. Absolutely the way to go.
Oh, yeah.
Disgusting.
That's good stuff.
It's terrible.
That's wonderful.
So, the other topic that I wanted to talk about was, where do you see yourself as a Magic player? Now, what I mean by that is more than just what you're trying to achieve. I guess my explanation here is looking at Patrick Chapman's book of Next Level Magic. One of the things he talks about in there is like know your place, in the game there. And, are you the beatdown? Are you the aggressive one? Are you a control player? I absolutely, having the Rakdos colors and so on, would generally say that I was the beatdown in the group, just because of my reactionary tactics and a number of things. But I don't know if you...
I'd say actionary tactics.
Yes.
we had to respond to you coming at us like...
But here's the thing. If I don't know if you ever played the role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade, but they introduced you to a concept, and they introduced me to a concept in there of nature and demeanor. And the nature of your character is one thing, but the demeanor is the way you present yourself to the world, and that might be something different. And I thought this fit in because when I realized this past week, and basically since that epiphany of pouring all of my hate and rage into a deck and it's suddenly working, I'm not so much the beatdown, but a control player. Not control in the not control in the standard blue-white control, that's controlling the deck, but controlling the game.
Okay.
So I'm looking at that as I want to control the battlefield. I need to feel like I've got lands out there. I need to be able to control of what the creatures are out there, and so on. So
I can see that.
It's not. So it's got me having a different way of thinking about it, a different way of looking at it. And I don't put names on things to limit them. But I'm thinking of it as names. You can't control things that you don't have a handle on and stuff. You know, the best example is you can't control your finances if you don't know what you're spending things on, where your money's going or whatever. Man, we were just all over this place this episode, aren't we? All kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
we're going in deep.
But here's the thing. So I need to accept that and start building towards that end. Okay. And I think, generally speaking, I'm going to be a better Magic player, and by extension, maybe you're going to be maybe you would be a better, if you stop fighting against your nature and build decks that are more suited to that. We've talked about this before. I've talked about this probably with all of my guests, how that, generally speaking, Magic, one of the beauties of Magic, I think, is it suits your personality.
Yes.
I mean, you can find a place to express yourself in the decks that you play.
Totally.
Now, I'm all over the decks, and I play all the different colors or whatever, but it's really, I think, to control the game. So I don't know. We'll see how that... My initial question was, what do you think your place in the game that is now?
Let's see.
Framing it with that criteria.
Okay, so, the spectrum being like beat down and more controlling, and
or just in general, because we talked also about the ones that we use these days and stuff, the subtypes, or the archetypes of be it a Spike or a Timmy or whatever. But anyhow, using all of those or any of those, what would you see, or do you think you've clearly defined already your goals in Magic?
You know what? No.
Okay.
See, the thing is about archetypes and stuff like that is that they're in degrees, right? Like each person has a degree of spikiness in them. Each person has a degree of Johnniness and Timminess and all that stuff. And so it's hard to define, I'm sure there's people out there that are just like pure Timmies.
Sure.
Pure Timmies or pure Spikes.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know there's pure Spikes. See, and there's... and I have to say, I do have a bit of spikiness in me. Otherwise, I wouldn't, You
wouldn't work as hard at it. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, got to collect the tears, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a bit of spikiness to me, and I'd say that I've got a bit of Johnniness to me too, where I'm trying to, find synergies and make combos and stuff like that. But also I've got a bit of Timminess in me too, where, I like to bring out big fatty boom booms and smash face. I mean,
nothing wrong with that.
Especially if they're flying big fatty boom booms.
Yes.
I really like those guys.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure if you'll ever see the gameplay that we did last week with my guest that I had last time on there, but we did a Commander game, and that Ur Dragon. That is I am not a fan of that, and I need to tell Frank that's specifically your fault for, that is a brutal
for the
deck.
trauma.
For the trauma inflicted, any chance that you get with that deck, but that's okay. That's part of the fun of playing, but that's it too. So I mean, you seem to be well balanced in that if you don't win, you don't have to win every time. We talked about that at the very beginning and stuff. It's not about winning every time. It's about seeing things that, for me, that I've never seen before, or pulling off combos that just... Wow, I didn't even know that was possible. And
inspiring. Just the interaction too,
right?
Because you have a game plan that you go into a game with, in with, right? And I think it was Mike Tyson who said this. You know, Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan when they get into the ring until they get hit in the face.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, basically, you know, that's the way I see Magic, where, you know, yeah, I'm coming in with, like, these motives to, like, destroy everyone around me.
Right.
But a lot of times I end up getting destroyed. And so just, you know, being able to see the interactions unfold that way, and you know, the attacks and the counterattacks and just the little nuances that happen.
Right.
And how, like, every game, especially if you play, like, middling and maybe lower tier sort of decks, you're not going to have two games that are the same.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, if you're playing, like, ultra busted top tier decks in your play group, yeah, you're going to have a tendency of, you know, if this card gets played, the game is over.
Right.
You know, that sort of line of play.
Right.
But when you're playing, like, mid-tier, especially mid-tier, where it's like you've got power, but so does your opponent.
Right.
And it's not, like, instant death.
Does it become a race to get to your combo?
Right.
Or what stumbling blocks do they throw out there in the meantime while you're about to? You may have it won right up until they go, oh, wait, I swan song that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that's like the one thing I hadn't thought of yet. So that's part of the fun. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely. Did you have any other topics you want to talk about?
Let's see. You know, I was thinking about the 20-20-20.
Okay.
And so when I started off playing Magic, you know, back when I was in high school, you know, we didn't have access to as much information as we do now.
Right.
And so, and I wasn't, you know, running out to buy Duel List. I didn't even know about Duel List until a few years later.
Okay.
And so the thought was, okay, yeah, of course I'm going to have 20 lands, because, you know, that's a third of my deck.
Sure.
Like, if I pull a grip, you know, full grip of cards, you know, I want to see at least 2 of those being lands. I don't want to see, like, 4.
Right.
You know, where's the
That's
gas?
way too many.
That's way too many. Where's the gas? You know, like, now I think differently,
Yes.
of course. But yeah, because, you know, when you have a handful of gas, it looks awesome until you realize, wait, I don't have any mana to pay for these cards. And so, yeah, just having access to the information that we do now has totally reconstructed the way I think about deck building, and how it doesn't have to be 20 creatures and 20 spells. It can be, you know, 27 creatures, maybe 10 spells.
Maybe only 18 land, and maybe, well, yeah, absolutely. Another way that's affected, in my personal opinion, is brewing. Home brewing. I used to be very much like the idea of net decking, the idea that you took somebody else's list, like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't come up with you couldn't come up with your own, you know, and stuff. But now, obviously, it's not. There's so much information out there, and there's no way to keep track of 25 years worth of cards. How do you? Can't even keep those straight in your head. So there are so many resources, and I don't see anything wrong with net decking, unless you're just going on there to get the top tier decks just to win.
Right.
And I mean that's up to you. I mean, we play kitchen table for the most part. We don't play. I mean, we do play at our local game store. We don't do Friday night magics very often or ever. Or haven't
as much as I would like to.
This is true. Same here. And I wouldn't mind hitting another pre-release tour, but you know, we're casual. We're absolutely casual players. And so, I mean, if you're only there to win, then I think you're losing out. I think you're missing out on part of the game. But if you're having fun, I'm going to say there's no wrong way to play.
Right. And you know, some people relish in bean spikes.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, that's the way it is. Now, if you're a spike and, you know, rubbing it into people's faces, or, you know,
something.
Healing them for 5 before blasting them in the face for...
That was a long time ago, and I don't do that anymore. I swear, I don't do that anymore that I'm aware of. But I think that, like I said, and that goes into the evolution of a deck too. You know what I mean? There are so many ideas out there, and there's so many people brewing. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a starting point for somebody else's deck, and then building either based on your budget or your constraints or the time, whatever you have, whatever constraints you have, and putting that on there. So, having said that, I want you to help me with a deck. So, well, thank you for watching, and encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe, or all three, or just one, two of the three. It doesn't matter. But at any rate, thank you for joining us here at Tibalt's Apprentice. Thank you again to Game Hub and to Comic Bug for letting us film here.
Very cool.
And thanks for watching.